Hi, today we will be learning about head and tail commands, and as with almost everything that we've done so far, we are dealing with text. This text could come from a file, or maybe it's an output of another command, and we are building a sequence of commands with our tools using pipes. So output of one command is then given as an input to another command, and in such scenario, head and tail might be useful if you only care about, in case of head, the first n lines, let's say first 3 lines, and in case of tail, the last n lines, maybe last 2 lines, and so on. So those tools are symmetrical. Their purpose is almost identical. The only difference is that head is used to display the first n, let's say 5 lines of a file or a text, and tail is used to display last n lines of a text. So they're really similar, and I think that we will do both commands in a single session, because it doesn't make sense to split them into two, just because of the similarity. And I think also that it will be one of the easiest lessons so far, because there is no much theory or any special philosophy behind them. They are really, really straightforward. So let's first go to the terminal and see the man page and see what the authors of the command want us to know. Let's first see the head command, and then we'll go to the tail. And here at the beginning they say that it is designed to output the first part of files. That's the thing that we've already mentioned. And the head deals with the beginning and tail deals with end. And there are couple of flags that we can use, and I think the only two flags that we care about are -c and -n. And -c is for characters, so if I care about, let's say, 10 first characters, I would use -c and 10 with head, and -n is for lines, so it's the more default one, I think, or maybe not the default one, the more used one. And yes, it's dealing with lines. So the thing that we've already mentioned, if I care about first 5 lines of a text file, and maybe I want to display some very large text file in the terminal, and it has thousands of lines, and I only care about the first 5, I can use head with this -n flag and 5, and then I would only see the first 5 lines instead of the whole file. And it might be useful in such scenario, or maybe you are building some scripts and you want to analyze multiple files. Let's say you have hundreds or thousands of files, and you want to do some data processing on them, but you only care about the beginning of those files. Yeah, then this command might also be useful for you. And as I said before, I think it's mostly used not with files, as they mentioned here, but just with outputs of other commands. And it's simply a part of a bigger pipe. So you are using some command, the output is huge, but you only care about the first n lines, let's say 3 or 5, and then you could use head to help you filter out. And the same goes for tail, output the last part of the file. So probably they use even the same text in the man pages for them, and you have a -c flag and -n as well. Okay, so let's do some example. Let's echo hello world as usual, and now we can give a pipe here and use head. If I do head -n and 2, I won't see a difference because I have a single line here, but I can choose a different flag. I can choose a character flag, and then I see only the first 2 characters with a -c flag, and I can give another flag to echo -e to use a special character for new lines, and build some bigger output with what can we give here? Let's say -n second slash and third. And in this case, we should see hello world and second only, without third. And that's the full output of echo command. And using pipe, I filtered out the first. I filtered out the last line, and I only get the first two lines using this command. But if I would exchange head for tail, then I should see second and third, and that's exactly what I see. So pretty straightforward, no big philosophy, no big theory, very easy commands, and also very useful commands. So let's see the task that they prepared for us. In this challenge, we practice using the head command to display the first n lines of a text file. Display the first 20 lines of an input file, input a text file, and output the first 20 lines. That's sample input. We won't be reading it. It's too big, and I guess the sample output is the first 20 lines of it. But it looks at least as big as the input, or maybe even bigger, but I won't be checking it. Let's go to the solution. The solution is really simple and really short this time. We are using head with -n flag for lines and 20 because they ask us to display first 20 lines. So let's write the code. Let's see if everything is good. If everything works fine, we can submit the code. And that's the first task. Now there's a second task with head. And here, I think the only difference is to display n first characters. And in this time in the example, I think there is really 20 characters, but I wouldn't be counting it either. So not echo. Let's try it simply with, now instead of -n flag, use -c and 20 characters. Let's see the first 20 characters. Works fine. And let's submit the code and see if all the test cases are solved. Yes, that's perfect. And there is this fifth task is called middle of a text file, but it requires us to use both head and tail, so we will do it at the end. And for now, let's see the tail. So tail is the same as head, so they want us to display the last n lines of a text file, and the rest of the task is of the problem description is copied from the head one. So here we are using head tail -20. The only thing we've changed is instead of head, we wrote tail, and it's green. And there will be also, let's see the unsolved second task for tail. And here they also want last n characters of a text file. So tail -c 20. Let's submit the code. And both test cases are green. So now the hardest part of today's challenge, the middle of the text file. That's the title of our problem, and here is the description. Display the lines from line number 12 to 22, both inclusive. So they want to see both line number 12 and line number 22 of a given text file. And input and output, those are the same as in other tasks. And they give some example that is also too big for me to read. I trust them that they are displaying the lines from 12 to 22. And how to do it? There is no middle command as far as I know, but we can join both commands, head and tail, using a pipe. That's what we know. That's what we've learned so far. We know how to pipe commands and use an output of one command as an input to another. So first we can use head to cut the whole text file to the first 22 lines, and then we can, from those first 22, we can use tail to display last 11 of them, because they want those two to be inclusive. So let's do head minus n 12, not 12, 22, and pipe tile, tail, not tile, tail, minus n 11. So let's run the code. And it works fine. I wasn't sure if I can subtract correctly, but it worked this time, and basic arithmetic is not my strongest side. And everything is green, so we haven't made any mistakes in typing this time. That's it for this task, and see you next time.